So you may ask yourself, after seeing the title of this video, who are you? What makes you think that you're qualified to talk about this subject? Well, first of all, I'm a nurse. I graduated from an accredited school. I'm licensed in the state of Texas. Texas is a compact state, which means I can work across borders in other states. I've worked in Nebraska, I've worked in South Dakota, I've worked in New Mexico, I've worked in Iowa, I've worked in Oregon, I've worked in Alaska. So I've worked in a lot of different states. So I would have to say that I am well qualified. I took microbiology in college. I took A&P 1 and 2, which is anatomy and physiology. I passed a state licensing test in the state of Texas and have a license that is in good standing with the Texas Board of Nursing. So as you can see, I am very well qualified to speak about this subject. So the reason I wanted to create this video is because I was recently watching Dave Chappelle, and I love Dave Chappelle. I think he is one of the funniest people ever. But in a recent comedy special that was posted on YouTube, one that came out recently on Netflix and then somebody put it on YouTube, he talks about how he got COVID-19 and how all the haters came after him. And he was actually saying that, ha, 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 I got COVID, I'm fine, I never even got sick, I was asymptomatic. And it really rattled something in my head because I hear a lot of people on the media, celebrities, even common folk talking about how, well, I got COVID and I'm fine. It didn't do anything to me. I'm perfectly normal. I had no problems. Well, I think there's something that we need to discuss. So let's talk about what viruses are. Okay, viruses are bits of DNA or RNA wrapped in protein, and they cannot replicate themselves. So what they have to do is, in order to replicate, they have to, once they get into a host, they insert their own DNA into the cells of their host. And that's how they replicate. But the problem is, when they do this, possibility then arises where this DNA that has now been manipulated can have a problem. And that problem can result in, in cancer. And what is funny about this, and the reason I wanted to make this video is, let's look at other viruses. One of the big viruses that was really big, and it's still big, it's still very dangerous, but it's not the way it used to be, is HIV, which is a virus. People forget that. And cancer has been associated with HIV. There's a thing called Carposty Sarcoma, which is a cancer caused by HIV. There's also other viruses out there, hepatitis, herpes, that can cause liver cancers. There's also HPV that affects young women who have to get shots, and it can cause cervical cancer. Even Michael Douglas performing oral sex on a female with HPV, he ended up getting throat cancer. Epstein-Barr virus can cause non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So there are many viruses out there that can cause cancer. And the reason I wanted to make this video, because I wanted to talk about that. So people right now are saying, oh, well, I had coronavirus and I didn't have any ill effects. I was asymptomatic today. But in 5 or 10 years, or maybe 20 years down the road, because coronavirus, COVID-19 is such a new virus that we don't yet understand. We don't know the long-term effects of this virus. In 10, 15, 20 years down the road, you could get cancer caused by COVID-19. So just because today you're asymptomatic doesn't mean in 20 years you won't have a cancer arise that originated from your first infection from COVID. So the reason I wanted to make this video is I wanted to point out that everyone should do all they can to not get COVID-19. You should wear masks until you can get the vaccine. Because just because you may be healthy and may say to yourself, you know, if I get it, I'm going to be asymptomatic, I'm not worried, doesn't mean in 15 or 20 years or maybe sooner, you don't develop a cancer that originates back to COVID-19. So all of these people, Dave Chappelle and people in the media that are talking about how they had COVID and, you know, it was rough and then they got through it, you don't know what's going to happen in 10 or 15 years. That COVID that didn't kill you now may eventually kill you in 10 or 20 years. Now, since COVID is so new, I'm not going to say that yes or no is going to cause cancer because we just don't know. It hasn't been studied enough. You know, we just created a vaccine, and even the vaccine in certain cases is 80 to 90%, which is still good, but it's not totally effective. So we won't know the full consequences of COVID for many, many, many years to come. So I just wanted to point out this fact to people who keep bragging on social media, talking about how they had COVID and how it was no big deal. You need to, you know, like I said, you need to watch what you say because karma is a bitch. And in 10 years from now, you may develop some type of unusual form of cancer and be like, I didn't smoke, I didn't drink alcohol, I was a vegan, what happened? And then as we go back in your history, we go, oh, you had COVID. You know, if you go to the big websites, the American Cancer Society or MD Anderson, you could read about all this. You can Google very easily viruses that cause cancer, and you can read all about AIDS and HPV and Epstein-Barr and herpes and hepatitis and all of these different viruses that have shown connections to cancer. There are even some scientists that are doing research today trying to determine if certain breast cancers may be caused by a virus. You know, it's a very interesting, microbiology is a very interesting subject. And, you know, I say to educate yourself. But in the meantime, get your vaccines, wear a mask, and do everything you can to not get the coronavirus. Because you may get through it today, but tomorrow may be a different story. And I don't want to scare people because, like I said, coronavirus is so new. We don't yet fully understand the process. But even when you read about the vaccines, one of the main vaccines, AstraZeneca, I can't remember which pharmaceutical company developed it, but if you read about it, it's RNA based. And all RNA is replicating. It's replicating DNA. It replicates on its own. So it's like asexual reproduction. It replicates without needing a host. So one of the things that I have to say about the crackpots out there, all the QAnon people, one thing that they do have right is when they talk about the vaccine changing the DNA, that's actually true to a point. Now, of course, it has nothing to do with the mark of the beast or any of that stupid bullshit, but it does have an effect on the cells. So I'm not saying that the vaccine is bad, but I am saying that scientifically, from a medical standpoint, it does affect the DNA of the cells. That's just how it works. So we don't know yet what the repercussions may be. It could be that the coronavirus is a virus that has nothing to do with cancer. Or it could be that the virus causes cancer in subjects in the future. Maybe certain subjects have a predetermined or an underlying condition, coupled with the coronavirus that then causes the rise of cancer? We don't know. That's why we've got to study it further so that we can understand it. So I just wanted to make this video out there and just tell people, even though you may have been asymptomatic, I would do my best not to get it, just for safety's sake. And you don't know that much about this virus, and we don't know how it's going to play out in the end. This is David. So is Izzles. Make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you very much. Goodbye.